Symbolism in the Order of the Eastern Star, just for members. The Order of the Eastern Star and the Art of Weaving. The Order of the Eastern Star is an authentic initiatory and symbolic path that places the human being at the center of a universe dedicated to their intellectual and spiritual development. This organization has correspondence and support with the art of embroidery to help us in the process of transmutation of consciousness. All traditional trades being symbolic, they help to open our minds. Just as masonry is linked to the construction process, the Order of the Eastern Star is closely related to the art of weaving and embroidery, traditionally related to women. Among the most outstanding weavers in history, we can mention Nama, Tubal-Cain's sister, daughter of Lamech and Selah, as the first weaver, Anne, the grandmother of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene, the weaver princess, as explained in the Proto-Evangelium of James. Perhaps textiles were the first products of commerce between the civilizations of the Mediterranean towards the 3rd BC. The woolen fabrics were produced in Europe, those of linen in Egypt, those of cotton came from India, and the silk was brought from China. In ancient Egypt, superb embroideries were made for the nobles on the linen fabrics used for their clothing. According to Homer, who describes scenes of Greek daily life, making clothes was considered the task of women, who used to sit by the fireplace to spin and weave. In ancient Rome, the ideal model of feminine virtue was represented by the figure of a woman spinning. Since immemorial time, the famous practices of the art of weaving lace in France is preserved to this day. Generally, one works on a plane with the version of the design that the weaver wishes to reproduce. Commonly, the artisan uses 18 needles, also called bobbins, of which 2 are called conductors. The more complicated the model, the more needles will be needed. Some parts require the use of 200 bobbins, or perhaps more. In the guilded societies of the Middle Ages, women and men worked to make beautiful tapestries that adorned cathedrals and places often built by masons. These needle and thread organizations were led by a master woman. It should be noted that, as a consequence of the complexities of the time, it was rare for men and women to work together, implying that the participants of these embroidery organizations possibly belonged to the same family or the same clan. Although seemingly different, construction and embroidery are ideas that provide an avenue for meditation. The symbolic transposition of the transcended idea will make its foray into our memory through the understanding of the symbol that evokes unsuspected memories. In addition, it was necessary to trust the people in the environment to carry out work that transmitted messages and codes, only understandable to prepared eyes. Symbols that were imprinted on their designs, as in the Masonic symbols expressed on the stones of Gothic buildings. While the Mason complies with the internal process of building his own building, the members of the Eastern Star must weave and embroider with the different threads that correspond to the members of the Masonic family. Mothers, daughters, sisters, nieces, granddaughters, great-granddaughters, along with our brothers and husbands, we elaborate a beautiful tapestry of varied colors that is harmonious in the eyes of our Creator. Thus, our chapter room, a neat, sacred, ordered, and delimited space, is comparable to a cloth prepared for the embroidery process. In the framework of embroidery and weaving, the needle is represented by the axis that is formed by crossing the altar from the east to west. It runs through our fabric in different movements and different planes, where the created divine essence is manifested. However, to start this path and make your journey safe, it is necessary to create a link, a knot in the unanimous tradition. The march of our officers through the chapter room corresponds to the path of the needle on the canvas. The art of the conductress is like that of the embroiderer. The conductress will lead the candidates through different paths, and in all the points they touch, she needs to make sure that the candidates acquire the colors and shades to which their own fabric is exposed, so that the impressions are lasting. In their journey, the conductors and the neophytes touch two realities at the same time, one esoteric, subtle, and the other exoteric, visible to the human eye. The design that they leave captured on the sacred ground is similar to the embroidery thread that shows us that the work done below has effects above. In other words, every act that occurs on earth impacts heaven. The life of the initiate, like the beginning of an embroidery, is incomprehensible and empty. Then, the repetition of the ritual, that is comparable to the repeated movement of the needle, will produce in the adept the revelation they seek. Just as extraordinary figures will emerge from the action of the needle and thread on the cloth, the internalization of the ritual will allow the adept to reveal knowledge and wisdom. The rays of the star are threads of divine colors that, in contact with our own essence, will manifest different nuances, revealing, in some way, the art inspired by the supreme maker of everything, created in the great cosmic tapestry that all beings of the universe form. The first steps in the chapter room correspond to the first stitches on a fabric that has not yet defined its design. It is necessary to order and to firmly commit to tradition for the authentic renewal of our thinking to take place. Higher energies descend from above that allow the act that was in power to be reflected on the canvas, because not one jot or one tittle shall move without divine will. Now the needle goes through the cloth through a small hole, which symbolically corresponds to the candidate's first step inside the chapter room and alludes to crossing the door that separates the profane world from the sacred. The neophytes enters the order of their personal universe. With the first stroke of the thread on the fabric, the work begins following the plan, making the required routes, touching the colors and types of stitches necessary for the work. The first path of the thread on the fabric defines the framework in which the work will take place. In the same way, free choice, the honor of the person, the sincere desire to learn, the commitment that voluntarily acquires with the tradition that guards the order of the Easter Star, will be the framework that allows the consciousness of the neophytes to rise to other levels of understanding. The embroiderer is only an intermediary. She only perpetuates the forms suggested by the Supreme Being. The repeated action of the needle and thread on the fabric, little by little, reveals a design. The white and virgin fabric takes the forms that the embroiderer carves on it, illuminating beautiful colors that make it shine and manifest a reality that was previously invisible. That is, the repetition and internalization of the ritual that increases our faith and motivates our acts of charity, leads the mind little by little towards the understanding of the symbol, the recognition of the truth, and the transcendental idea. Charity, truth, and love are the basis of our instruction as members of the Order of the Eastern Star. They are paths to perfection, the essence of the announcement of the Master Jesus that leads us to integral human development.